I am Barry of Feldman Creative, and that guy on the other end of the screen is Jay Baer of Convince and Convert, and the author of a list of books that's getting perhaps a little too long to talk about. But Jay's also the CEO of Convince and Convert, and I think today we're going to have a conversation about convincing and converting. How's that sound?
Good. Since I have the domain name, we might as well talk about it.
Us marketing geeks like the term "the moment of truth," and it's changed over the years, and there's more of them now. And I think Google made it pretty clear that the zero moment of truth is when somebody searches for information. But I can't think of a more important moment of truth than when somebody gets to your website because they're actually interested in what you do or sell or say, and so it's a moment of truth I want to talk about today. I'm at your website. I have questions. I'm in your buy cycle now, at least I can be. Do you think brands are responding well enough to this?
No, I don't, not generally speaking. I feel like too many organizations still feel like there's a reason for somebody to come to their site other than if they have a question or have a problem. I think a lot of brands still believe that they are somehow competing successfully against Facebook for attention, that somehow going to their website is going to be valuable entertainment. And so we are at a point, I think, a transition phase where business websites are going to become less, not more, and should, because nobody wants to go to your website unless they have a very specific task in mind. They want to go spend time on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or wherever they're spending time.
Well, one of your many books is called Utility, and let's see, I'm reading upside down. It says, Why Smart Marketing is About Help, Not Hype. You could sort of cut to the kill there and say it's a book about content marketing or being helpful. And so I think a lot of marketers in the generation of content marketing that understand and apply the principles think that the panacea for solving their customers' problems is publishing. Certainly you and I believe in the idea. Is it good enough? I mean, does it manage, does it help convert each and every case of people that come to your website?
No, definitely not. Just because content exists doesn't mean anything. And in fact, websites are not benefits, they're often costs. Like just because you have a site, in fact, just because somebody comes to your website doesn't mean anything. It does you no actual good unless the person who comes to your website then takes a subsequent action, which either takes them closer to a purchase or makes a purchase. So this idea that you should just make more content because you should make more content is a fool's errand and is also really expensive. Not as expensive as just making TV commercials willy-nilly, but all the stats that have been published over the last 3 years, every single year, marketers say, 3 out of 4 marketers say they're making more content this year than ever before, and more content the year after that, and more content the year after that. And eventually, not all of that content can succeed. And a lot of it, people are just running in place, but now people are being paid to be content marketers. And so they figure, well, I better make content because that's my job.
Right. So there's a void there. Somebody at your website, however generous your website is, has work to do if they're going to read your content.
Sure. I mean, if you're going to say to somebody, we want you to come to stop what you're doing. Of all the things that you could do in the world, offline or even online, don't do any of those things. Instead, come to this one site in the sea of trillions of websites. Come to this one site and spend time there. And meanwhile, as you're spending time on this website, you're actually getting closer to dying in a very true sense, right? You are closer to death when you leave the site than when you got on the site. That's a big ask, right? I mean, time is the most valuable commodity. It's more valuable than diamonds. It's more valuable than gold. And I don't think most websites respect time in the way that they should.
All right. Here's a quote from McKinsey and Company, a global consulting firm. They publish a lot of research, and they say 70% of buying experiences are based on how the customer feels they are being treated. Now, you wrote a book, and it touches on the buying experience, and it's largely about customer service, and it's called Hug Your Haters. Do you concur with that idea?
More and more all the time. Absolutely, Barry. In fact, there's other research that says that by 2020, customer experience will be more important than price in the buying decision. And you start thinking about that, like, wow, people will pay more for a better experience. Now, that already happens in some businesses, right? You'll pay more for a better hotel. You'll pay more for a better restaurant meal. There's already, you'll pay more for a better car. There's already industries where that's true. But the concept is that faced with an equivalent product at an equivalent price, that quality of experience will be the determining factor. Number one, that's a real luxury, right? You know, you're living in a first world society when quality of experience can be a buying factor. Because most people are like, hey, is this water polluted or not? That's their buying factor. So realize how fortunate we are for quality of experience to even be a criteria. But beyond that, absolutely. Because you see, every customer, prospective customer, has in their head a set of expectations about how every interaction with a brand or business will go. Now, in many cases, they can't write those expectations down. They can't tell you what they are. If you say, what do you expect from this business? They're like, I don't know. I expect them to, come when I call them. But they have them, right? Those expectations are in your head in sort of a vague sense. And the businesses that can exceed those expectations are the businesses that are going to win. And the businesses that consistently fail to meet those expectations are going to be the businesses that fail. And that is more and more true every single day.
I like the price versus experience discussion. And it reminds me of something I just read that says customers remember service a lot longer than the price, right? So, we're all very vocal. A couple of years later, we might be talking about the dealership that sold us the car. We're not going to remember the price. We are going to remember the service.
Well, and not only will you remember it, there's some other research that shows, I talked about it in Hug Your Haters. It's not research that I conducted, but research that I cited that shows that customers who have a problem with a business and that problem is successfully resolved become more loyal to the business than customers who never had a problem. It's almost like the Stockholm syndrome, right? It's like, okay, I've now fallen in love with my captor because we had this problem and we fixed it together, and now we're all in this together, right? And it creates this very important psychological trigger. And so what I think, because I'm Machiavellian, is what kind of problems can we create for customers that we know we can solve to create that effect and boost loyalty? I don't recommend you try that at home, but it's a fascinating it's a fascinating concept, right? That problems can be a good thing, not a bad thing.
All right. Well, we're talking about service now. Obviously, people want better service, and they rave about it when they get it, and they certainly rave even harder when they don't. Do you think in this age where that moment of truth is largely the e-commerce experience, that the move to digital marketing is making great customer service harder to come by?
Well, I would say yes and no. It giveth and it taketh away. So digital marketing creates digital customer service opportunities. The bad news, as we talked about in the Hug Your Haters book, is that people tend to complain online more than they complain offline. Now, not as a percentage, but it's just easier to complain online, right? It's easier to complain in an app on a smartphone than it is to call or email. And so that balance between people who complain online versus people who complain offline will continue to tip towards online. And so it is harder to deal with that volume in some cases because businesses are typically not set up today to use Facebook or Twitter, what have you, as a primary source of customer service. Secondary for sure, but not primary. So that can be a little bit difficult operationally. But the good news is that from an expense standpoint, it is manifestly less expensive to interact with a customer on Facebook, Twitter, and beyond than it is phone or email. Average is approximately $5 to answer a customer in email, $8 or more to answer a customer via the phone, and approximately $1 to answer a customer in social media. So while brands like to complain about the difficulties and the trickiness of social media customer service, for example, financially, it's actually a good thing.
You had those dollar figures right there at the top of your head or the tip of your tongue?
I know all the numbers in the book. That's one of the things. One of the things I'm good at is remembering all the numbers in the book.
Wow, yeah. What I was thinking when I was asking that question was like you have the Costco's that clearly could get you the best price on a premium television.
Yep.
And then you have the boutiques that can get you the best service on a home theater installation, right?
Yep.
And in between, I think is shopping online now, and is that the experience that we're looking for? Let's segue over to this idea. My friend and your friend, Andy Crestadina, says where there's traffic, there's hope. He's talking SEO when he talks about that, generally speaking. But does hope die when the visitor gets to your website and they can't find what they're looking for?
Oh, sure. And it's also an incredible waste of money, and time and effort. I mean, there's so many circumstances where organic search, organic social, paid social, email, banner ads, any sort of traffic generation gambits are completely wasted, because either there is no landing page and you're just dropping somebody off on the homepage and saying, okay, figure it out, man. Or the sort of, there's no funnel. You're just saying, well, we have all these things on this website, and you can determine which things you appreciate. One of the things we overlook, Barry, is that, and my first company, long before we met, when I started in this business, the first company I owned was all about web strategy and usability. And we tend to forget that websites are the only form of communication in the history of communication where each and every individual consumer of that content has to relearn how to navigate that content every time. Every website has different navigation, which is absurd on surface. Imagine if you went to a newsstand and every magazine had a different page numbering scheme. This one's all prime numbers. This one's all odd numbers. This one goes back to front, right? You'd be like, this is insane. Why don't we fix this? But that's exactly how websites work. And we do not focus enough on the fact that in 1 second, somebody shows up on your site and they have to assess all their options and sort through your terrible navigation and your bad design, and then click and hope that they get what they wanted. And then they don't, and they got to go back, right? It's like this weird game of informational peekaboo. And ultimately, other than graphics, which have gotten better, of course, because monitors have gotten better and things like that, I don't know that websites in general are any better or easier to use than they were 15 years ago.
Yeah, interesting. Bontac is a company that makes chat software, and that chat software is remarkably flexible in terms of it's not just chat. You can choose a variety of channels, and they'll get back to you with the idea being maybe you're on your phone, maybe you're mobile, maybe you prefer to pursue this via Facebook or email or what have you. So it's an interesting idea.
Oh, it's a great idea, because this idea that, hey, everybody has to chat us doesn't make sense, because some people hate live chat. But some people love it, right? And this idea that everybody has to call us doesn't make sense, because people don't want to wait on hold, and not, people have different preferences for contact modalities, the same way that people have different preferences for content consumption, which is why if you're creating content marketing, the best possible scenario is it's not a video or an ebook. It's a video and an ebook and whatever else, because some people want to consume video and some people want to read. And so what Bontac does in terms of saying, look, we're going to give you a panoply of options and you choose. Like, we're here for you. However you pick, we got you covered, is brilliant. And more people should think that way.
And I think, where I was going with that is that the option, particularly in business to business, is go read this. We have a forum, we have a blog, go watch this, we have a vlog. And I'm in buying mode, back to the top of the conversation. I'm at the moment of truth. I just want to talk to somebody who can answer my questions just like I'm in a store. And so do you think that having fast access, it's a loaded question, I guess, to having customer service person actually moves the needles for online sellers?
Yes, if that is introduced at the right point in the funnel. So if I have exhausted my self-serve information, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty ready. Like, I've got a couple questions left and I can't figure out how to answer them, or just, why don't you just tell me the answer? At that point, which is fairly deep in the funnel, then for sure, talking to a person is way faster. If it's earlier in the funnel, though, and I'm not even sure you're the right guys, you're still sort of in the consideration set, or I still have very big questions to get answered, then no. Then it's actually annoying. And it's the same thing. Look, what Montac's talking about is the same thing that happens at J.Crew. You go to J.Crew, right? And if you're browsing around, and you've got a pair of jeans in your hand and you're looking at them kind of quizzically, and somebody comes up to you and says, is that not your size? Can I help you find a different size? You're like, wow, that was awesome. Thanks very much. But when you walk in and the first thing they say when you're only 6 inches in the door is, can I help you find something? You're like, too soon, man. I don't know if you can help me find something. So it's all about timing, engaging that assist and sort of offering the assist when the customer wants and needs that assist.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting because I think, it is indeed a moment of truth, and again, it matters most what the customer's thinking and where they're at, but it doesn't seem like a very interesting response to somebody walking around with jeans in their hand saying, oh, we have a great ebook about how to size your pants.
Right. Because it puts all the effort on the, all the effort is from the customer then. It's like, look, we're not going to tell you, you have to learn this yourself. And some people prefer that, right? Some people like, look, I want to read it all myself. I don't ever want to talk to a real person. That's for sure the case in some circumstances. But I completely agree. At some point, like there's a great Seinfeld episode, right, where they're calling for the movie times. You remember that one?
Yeah, I think so.
And Kramer is pretending to be movie phone.
Yeah.
And at one point he's like, why don't you just tell me what time you want to go to the movie? And that's kind of how this is, right? That introduced at the right place in the funnel, you're like, wow, thank you, you're here. But what's annoying though is when it's introduced too soon. So the equivalent of this, not in a live chat contact scenario, but the same idea, is when you go to a site and the first thing you see is the 4C survey pop up, like, would you like to help us rate the site? And I'm like, bro, I've been here for 5 seconds. I'm not even sure this is the right site. So certainly I don't feel like I'm qualified to rank, order, and rate your usability at this juncture.
Well, and if I must rate you, I'll have to give you low ratings right now because you're
for presumptuousness.
Yeah.
It's an F for presumptuousness.
Yeah. But I mean, you don't expect that at Amazon, and maybe you never will. Amazon sells everything to everybody, and there's nobody there to hold your hand. And so
Which is fascinating, right? A company that size that's never had live chat. It's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, it is very interesting that today that's an option, and it's certainly an underused option, and it takes manpower to make it happen. You have to. It's like enormously horrible to say yes. I'd like to chat, and sorry, we'll get back to you tomorrow.
One of the companies that I love, I talked about them in Hug Your Haters, is Needle. And Needle's a company that takes actual customers and has them man the live chat. So the chat box pops up and it says, would you like to talk to an actual customer about whatever the product or service is? So you're not talking to an employee, you're talking to an actual customer, which is awesome. Totally changes the psychology around it, right? And then they pay that customer who becomes a live chat person a percentage. As an affiliate program, essentially. So there's a lady who I wrote about in the book. Her name is Baer, and she works for, it's either Royal Caribbean or Norwegian. I think it's Royal Caribbean. And so they're a Needle customer. And so you go on the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line site, and if you're poking around for a while, like they time it, which you should, and it looks like, you're kind of serious. The pop-up comes up. So they're like, talk to an actual cruiser about Royal Caribbean. Like, yeah, boom. So you get connected to Barry, and she's a total cruise freak. She's been on every single cruise they have, like knows everything. If you're like, well, how far is the bed from the wall in the stateroom? She's like, oh, 6 inches. Like, she knows everything. And she's just really good at it, right? She's just really nice and fun and happy and enthusiastic about cruising because she's been on like 150 cruises. Last year, she sold $12 million worth of cruises by herself in her bathrobe at her kitchen table.
That's cool, man. I want to be that Barry.
Right? That's a good gig.
I want to be that Barry.
I know.
I'll be your record store concierge.
Yeah, you could do it. I love it. It's a good idea.
Yeah. User-generated, can't be content, user-generated service.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it is.
UGS. That's wild.
Yes.
All right. Speaking of customer service, and particularly if it's provided by the host of the website, to wrap it up now, I think that this is an interesting idea that is undermined, and that is that by conversing with your potential customers, prospects, in some cases maybe loyalists through the various ways you can do that, chat and email and video and what have you, there is this inherent opportunity that's big and beautiful to better understand your market, to treat that as a market research, and to apply that to make your service better, your products better. To respond, to be responsive, to be to answer the new telephone. That's the name of a chapter from like 3 or 4 books ago. Remember
Yep,
that?
I do.
To emphasize responsibility. I'm talking about the now revolution.
Yep.
What do you think about that? I mean, even if you are throwing the option to chat at people, probably in most cases your company's not actually using that to the degree that it could.
Yeah, it's frustrating for me that we have all this raw material laying around our companies, right? Whether it's chat transcripts, whether it's emails, whether it's phone call transcripts, whether it's observations from salespeople. Our customers will tell us what to do and what they want. We just don't listen very hard because we keep that data in individual silos, right? And we don't analyze it. There's companies out there that will do that. Clarabridge is one that we've worked with quite a bit, where they'll take all that stuff, your email and your phone and your transcripts and all that, and then analyze it and say, hey, across all these different touch points, here's what customers are saying, and it kind of adds some clarity to that scenario, which is really, really useful. Your current customers are the petri dish for your future success. We just don't think of it that way. We're so focused on customer acquisition that we don't spend enough time thinking about customer retention, but certainly not enough time thinking about what our current customers can tell us about what we should offer in the future.
That petri dish is a winner, man. Where'd you steal that one from?
From one of my books.
You said that? All right, that's awesome.
It's in Hug Your Haters, I think.
Oh, beautiful. I'm going to say goodbye to you now and let you go. I can't wait to share this interview and video with whoever we decide to share it with. We'll put it on your website and mine.
Right on.
Yeah. It was great talking to you. It's always great talking to you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I will see you in Cleveland.
All right. See you soon.
See you, buddy.